Kira adjusted her worn leather satchel and checked the delivery schedule one more time. The morning mist clung to the cobblestone streets of Meridian City as she prepared for another routine day of courier work. At 23, she had been running packages between the various settlements scattered across the realm for nearly 5 years. It was honest work, though hardly glamorous. Most people barely noticed couriers. They were invisible threads that held the fabric of trade and communication together. The package in her bag today was different, though. Heavier than most, sealed with strange metallic clasps she had never seen before, and addressed to the Dragon Research Institute in the mountain settlement of Drakmore. The sender had paid triple the usual fee and insisted it reach its destination within 2 days. Kira never asked questions about the contents. That was the first rule of courier work, but something about this particular delivery made her uneasy. Dragons had been part of human civilization for over 3 centuries now. When humanity had first arrived in this realm through the great dimensional rift, they expected to find an empty world to colonize. Instead, they discovered ancient creatures of immense intelligence and power already claimed the skies and mountains. The war that followed lasted 50 years and nearly drove humanity to extinction. Only when a group of human diplomats managed to establish the first peace treaty did the bloodshed end. Now, dragons and humans coexisted in an uneasy balance. Dragons controlled the high mountains and air routes, while humans built their cities in valleys and plains. Trade occurred through carefully regulated channels, and direct interaction was limited to government officials and certified researchers. Most humans went their entire lives without seeing a dragon up close, and Kira was no exception. The journey to Drakmore would take her through 3 settlement zones and into the lower mountain passes, dangerous territory where dragon patrols were common. Kira had made this route only twice before, both times delivering routine government correspondence. She preferred the safer valley routes, but the extra payment for this job would cover her rent for 2 months. She boarded the early transport, a solar-powered vehicle that could navigate the rough terrain between settlements. The other passengers were mostly traders and a few government workers, all looking as tired as she felt. The transport would take her as far as Thornwall, the last major settlement before Dragon territory. From there, she would have to continue on foot along the mountain paths. The ride to Thornwall passed without incident. Kira dozed fitfully, her hand never straying far from the sealed package. Something about it seemed to generate its own warmth, though that could have been her imagination. When the transport reached Thornwall, she gathered her gear and prepared for the most challenging part of the journey. Thornwall served as a border checkpoint between human and dragon territories. Guards inspected her credentials and delivery authorization twice before allowing her to proceed. The settlement itself was small and fortified, with high walls and defensive towers that had never actually been tested in combat. Everyone who lived there carried themselves with the nervous energy of people who knew they lived on the edge of something vast and dangerous. The mountain path to Drakmore was well marked but treacherous. Narrow switchbacks carved into cliff faces, loose stones that could send an unwary traveler tumbling into deep ravines, and the ever-present possibility of encountering a dragon made it a route that few people traveled voluntarily. Kira started the climb just after midday, hoping to reach Drakmore before nightfall. 3 hours into the climb, she heard the sound that had haunted human nightmares for generations, the deep, resonant call of a dragon. It echoed off the mountain walls, impossible to locate precisely, but clearly close. Kira froze on the narrow path, her heart hammering in her chest. Protocol in dragon territory was simple. Stay perfectly still, make no sudden movements, and hope the creature lost interest and moved on. The call came again, closer this time. Then she saw it. A massive bronze dragon emerged from behind a rocky outcropping about 200 meters above her position. Its wingspan had to be at least 50 meters, and even at this distance, she could see the intelligence in its ancient golden eyes. Dragons were not mindless beasts. They were creatures of profound intellect and memory, capable of holding grudges for centuries and making decisions that affected entire regions. The bronze dragon descended slowly, its great wings creating downdrafts that nearly knocked Kira off her feet. She pressed herself against the cliff wall, trying to become as small and invisible as possible. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she knew that would be fatal. Dragons were faster than any human, and sudden movement often triggered their predatory instincts. To her amazement, the dragon landed on a wide ledge just below her position. It was even larger up close, its scales gleaming like polished metal in the afternoon sunlight. The creature regarded her with an expression she could not read, its head tilted slightly as if puzzled by something. Dragons rarely showed interest in individual humans unless those humans posed a threat or carried something of value. Then, something impossible happened. The mighty bronze dragon slowly lowered its great head until it nearly touched the rocky path. The gesture was unmistakable. It was bowing to her. Kira stared in complete bewilderment. Dragons did not bow to humans. They barely acknowledged human existence under the best circumstances, and they certainly did not show deference to a simple courier carrying a single package. Before she could process what was happening, another dragon call rang out across the mountains. Then another. Within minutes, she could see shapes approaching from multiple directions. Dragons of different colors and sizes, all converging on her position. A silver dragon with scales that reflected the light like mirrors landed on an opposite ledge. A deep green dragon with patterns like jade settled on a rocky peak above her. A massive black dragon, larger than all the others, took position on the main path ahead of her. One by one, each dragon performed the same impossible gesture. They lowered their proud heads in unmistakable bows of respect or submission. The black dragon's bow was so deep that its chin actually touched the stone of the mountain path. Kira found herself surrounded by a circle of bowing dragons, each one a creature of immense power that could incinerate her with a single breath if they chose. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Kira remained frozen, afraid that any movement would break whatever strange spell had settled over the scene. The package in her satchel seemed to grow warmer against her back, but she did not dare reach for it. Whatever was happening, it was beyond her understanding. Finally, the bronze dragon that had first approached raised its head and spoke. Dragons rarely communicated directly with humans, but when they did, their voices carried the weight of mountains and the wisdom of ages. "Courier," the dragon said, its voice resonating through her bones, "you carry something that changes everything. Do you understand what you bear?" Kira found her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. "I carry a sealed package to the Dragon Research Institute. I don't know what's inside." The bronze dragon's eyes seemed to bore into her soul. "You carry the last testament of Valdris the Ancient, first among our kind to speak with humans. His final words, recorded before his death 3 centuries ago, words that speak of a human who would come to unite our peoples." "I don't understand," Kira managed to say. "The testament speaks of a human who would carry no fear in her heart when facing dragons. A human who would see us as equals, not as monsters or gods. A human through whom the old prophecies would finally be fulfilled." The bronze dragon's voice carried a note of wonder. "We have been waiting 300 years for your arrival, though we did not know when or how you would come." Kira looked around at the circle of bowing dragons, still unable to believe what she was experiencing. "But I'm just a courier. I'm nobody special." "That," said the black dragon, raising its massive head to regard her, "is exactly what makes you special. You came here not seeking power or glory, not trying to control or command us. You came simply to fulfill a duty, to deliver a message. In your simplicity, we see the truth that has eluded diplomats and kings for centuries. The green dragon stirred, its voice like wind through ancient forests. The testament also speaks of changes that must come. The old barriers between our peoples have served their purpose, but now they must fall. The realm faces threats that neither humans nor dragons can face alone. What threats? Kira asked. The dimensional rifts that brought your people here are opening again, the silver dragon replied. But what comes through this time will not be as peaceful as human colonists. We have detected ships at the edge of reality, vessels of war from a universe where dragons were hunted to extinction. They seek to finish here what they started in their own realm. The bronze dragon stepped closer, its massive form blocking out the sun. The testament names you as the bridge between our kinds. Through you, the old treaty will be replaced with something new, an alliance that gives both peoples the strength to survive what is coming. Kira felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders like a mountain. What if I'm not the right person? What if you're mistaken? Dragons are never mistaken about such things, the black dragon rumbled. We sense the truth in your spirit, the courage that brought you into our territory alone, the integrity that made you accept this delivery without knowing its value, the wisdom that keeps you calm even now when faced with powers beyond your imagining. The circle of dragons began to move, clearing the path ahead of her. The bronze dragon gestured with one great wing toward the continuing trail to Drakmor. Complete your delivery, Courier. But know that when you place the testament in the hands of the researchers, you will be setting in motion events that will reshape this realm. As Kira resumed her journey up the mountain path, the dragons took to the air around her, not as escorts but as honor guards. Their shadows swept across the stone beneath her feet, and their calls echoed through the peaks like a chorus, announcing the arrival of something momentous. She walked on toward Drakmor, no longer a simple courier carrying a simple package. She was now the bearer of an ancient prophecy, the living bridge between two species who had shared a world but never truly shared understanding. Behind her, the bronze dragon's words echoed in her mind. You carry something that changes everything. The package in her satchel pulsed with warmth, as if responding to the dragon's recognition. Whatever lay ahead in Drakmor, whatever responsibilities she was about to inherit, there was no turning back now. The path forward led not just to a research institute, but to a future that would test everything humanity and dragonkind thought they knew about each other. As the sun began to set behind the peaks, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold that matched the bronze dragon's scales, Kira pressed on toward her destination and her destiny. The Dragon Research Institute in Drakmor was nothing like Kira had expected. Built into the living rock of the mountain itself, the facility blended seamlessly with the stone around it. Crystalline windows reflected the last rays of sunlight, and subtle heat vents indicated advanced technology hidden within the mountain's embrace. Dragons circled overhead in lazy spirals, their presence no longer threatening, but almost protective. Dr. Elena Voss, the Institute's director, met Kira at the main entrance. She was a tall woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair, pulled back in a practical ponytail, and eyes that held the intense focus of someone who had spent decades studying the impossible. When Kira presented the sealed package, Dr. Voss's hands trembled slightly as she accepted it. "We've been expecting this for longer than you can imagine," Dr. Voss said, leading Kira through corridors carved from solid stone and lined with displays of dragon artifacts. "Though I must admit, we expected it to arrive through official channels, not with a commercial courier." "The dragon seemed to know what I was carrying," Kira said, still trying to process her encounter on the mountain path. They said it was some kind of testament. Dr. Voss paused at a heavy door marked with symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. The testament of Valdris the Ancient. We've known of its existence for centuries but never knew where it was hidden. Valdris was the dragon who first made contact with human diplomats during the war. His final words were supposed to contain revelations about the future relationship between our species. She placed her palm on a scanner beside the door, and it opened to reveal a circular chamber with walls covered in dragon script and human text side by side. In the center stood a translation matrix, a device that could decode ancient dragon language in real time. Several research assistants were already present, their faces tense with anticipation. "Open it here," Dr. Voss instructed, gesturing to the translation matrix. Kira removed the package from her satchel, noting how warm it had become during her journey. The metallic clasps opened at her touch, though they had remained sealed for centuries. Inside was a crystal data storage device of dragon manufacture, its faceted surface pulsing with internal light. When Dr. Voss placed the crystal in the translation matrix, the chamber filled with a deep, resonant voice, the recorded words of Valdris the Ancient. The translation appeared on screens around the room in both human and dragon script, but Kira found she could somehow understand the original dragon language as if it were her native tongue. "I am Valdris, eldest of the Bronze Flight, keeper of the mountain passes, and first to speak with the human refugees who fell through the dimensional rift into our realm," the voice began. "I record these words in my final hour, not as history, but as prophecy, for I have seen in the crystal caves of time what is to come." The recording continued, describing visions of humanity's arrival and the war that followed. But then it spoke of something else, a darkness that would one day follow humanity through the rifts between worlds. The humans fled from something in their origin dimension, Valdris's voice explained. They spoke little of it, but their fear ran deeper than their fear of dragon fire. In the far future, that darkness will find the path they took. Ships of metal and void will come through the rifts, carrying weapons designed to kill dragons and humans alike. Dr. Voss and her team exchanged worried glances. This information had never been part of the official human colonization records. "But there is hope," the testament continued. "A human will arise who carries no fear of dragons in her heart, who sees us as neither masters nor servants but as equals. Through her, the old barriers will fall and a new alliance will form. She will be marked by the simple courage of one who serves others without thought of reward, and she will come bearing these very words when the time of choice is upon us." The voice paused, and when it resumed, it seemed to speak directly to Kira. "Human courier who brings my words to light, you carry within yourself the bridge between worlds. The dragons will bow to you not in submission, but in recognition. You are the fulfillment of the promise that ends the age of separation." The recording provided coordinates to hidden dragon citadels, locations of ancient weapons caches, and detailed intelligence about the dimensional rifts that brought humanity to this realm. Most importantly, it revealed that the rifts were not random tiers in space, but deliberate passages created by an advanced civilization that had been hunting dragons across multiple dimensions for millennia. "The Void Hunters," Dr. Voss whispered as the translation completed. "We always wondered why the first human colonists were so well equipped for fighting dragons specifically. Now we know. They were fleeing from a war that had already been fought and lost in their home dimension." Kira stared at the crystal, which had gone dark after delivering its message. "So the humans who came here weren't really colonists at all?" "Refugees," Dr. Voss confirmed. "And if this testament is accurate, their pursuers have finally found them. The dimensional disturbances we've been detecting over the past year aren't natural phenomena. They're the advanced scouts of an invasion fleet. Before anyone could respond further, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the chamber in red. A young researcher burst through the doorway, his face pale with terror. "Director Voss, you need to see this immediately." Our long-range sensors are detecting massive dimensional rifts opening at the edge of the system. Dozens of them. And there are ships coming through. The group rushed to the facility's observation deck, a transparent dome that provided a clear view of the night sky. Even without telescopic enhancement, they could see the rifts, tears in space that glowed with sickly purple light. Through them, dark shapes were emerging, ships unlike anything in human or dragon design. They were angular, predatory things that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Dragons began appearing from all directions, converging on the Institute. The bronze dragon that had first bowed to Kira landed on a nearby platform, its voice carrying clearly through the dome's speakers. "The Void Hunters have found us," it announced. "Their first wave consists of 50 ships, each one capable of destroying a settlement. They carry weapons specifically designed to penetrate dragon scales and disrupt human technology." Dr. Voss activated the facility's communication system, connecting to government centers across the realm. "This is Dragon Research Institute Drakmor calling all settlements. We have confirmation of hostile extra-dimensional incursion. This is not a drill. All defense forces to high alert." The responses came back quickly, but they were not encouraging. Human military forces were designed for territorial defense and maintaining order, not for fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere through dimensional rifts. Dragon flights were powerful, but had never faced weapons specifically designed to kill them. "We need the alliance the Testament spoke of," Kira said, surprising herself with her own voice. "Neither humans nor dragons can win this alone." The bronze dragon turned its great head toward her. "Indeed, Courier. But such an alliance requires trust that has never existed between our peoples. Humans fear dragon power, and dragons doubt human commitment." "Then we build that trust," Kira replied. "The Testament said I'm supposed to be the bridge. Tell me what that means." Dr. Voss pulled up tactical displays, showing the approaching Void Hunter fleet. According to the Dragon Archives, the Hunters use a specific strategy. They establish orbital positions around populated worlds and systematically eliminate all sentient life. They've perfected this technique across dozens of dimensions. "But they've never faced a world where dragons and humans fought together," the bronze dragon added. "Their intelligence will be based on the dimension they conquered, where dragons were already extinct and humans fought alone." Through the dome, they could see the first Void Hunter ships entering the atmosphere. They moved with predatory grace, their hulls gleaming with an oily darkness that made them difficult to track visually. Energy readings showed they were scanning the surface, probably locating major population centers for attack. "How long do we have?" Kira asked. "Their first strikes will come at dawn," Dr. Voss replied, checking her instruments. "They prefer to attack when their targets are least prepared. Classic psychological warfare." "Then we have 8 hours to create an alliance that should have been built centuries ago," Kira said. She turned to the bronze dragon. "Can you contact the Dragon Lords? All of them?" "It will be done. They are already gathering at the Great Assembly, waiting for word from the one who fulfilled the prophecy." Kira felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders again, heavier than before. "And the human government? Can we get direct communication with the Council of Settlements?" Dr. Voss nodded. "Emergency protocols give us direct access to all council members. But Kira, you have to understand, most humans have never even seen a dragon up close. The idea of fighting alongside them will terrify many people." "Then I'll have to convince them," Kira said. She looked out at the approaching ships, dark shapes against the star-filled sky. "Because the alternative is extinction." The next several hours passed in a blur of emergency communications and frantic preparation. Kira found herself at the center of negotiations that should have taken months or years to complete. Human council members appeared on communication screens, their faces showing everything from fear to skepticism to desperate hope. Dragon Lords manifested through holographic projections that filled the chamber with their imposing presence. The arguments were intense. Human military leaders questioned whether dragons could be trusted in combat. Dragon Elders wondered if humans possessed the courage necessary for the coming battle. Old grievances from the war centuries ago surfaced, threatening to derail the entire process. But gradually, as reports came in of Void Hunter movements and the scale of the threat became clear, both sides began to recognize reality. They were facing an enemy that had successfully eliminated dragon-human worlds before. Divided, they would fall as those other worlds had fallen. United, they might discover strengths that neither species possessed alone. The Void Hunters' weapons are designed to exploit the weaknesses they found in their previous conquests, Kira explained to the assembled leaders. They expect dragons to fight as individuals and humans to rely purely on technology. They don't know what to do with coordinated dragon-human tactics. A Silver Dragon Lord spoke from the holographic assembly. Our fire can clear orbital positions, but their ships can outmaneuver us. Human technology could track their movements and coordinate our strikes. And our ground forces could hold positions that dragons couldn't occupy, added General Morrison, the human military commander. But we'd need air support against their atmospheric craft. The alliance was born not from trust or friendship, but from necessity. Plans took shape as the night wore on. Combined strike forces, shared intelligence networks, coordinated defense strategies that played to each species' strengths while covering their weaknesses. As dawn approached and the first Void Hunter attack ships began their descent, Kira stood on the observation deck watching dragons and human aircraft taking formation together for the first time in 3 centuries. The sight was almost beautiful, graceful dragon silhouettes flying alongside sleek human fighters, natural and artificial power united in common purpose. The bronze dragon landed beside the dome, its voice carrying a note of something that might have been hope. The testament spoke truly, Courier. You have given us what we never thought possible, a chance to fight as one people instead of two. Kira pressed her hand against the dome's surface, feeling the vibration of approaching engines, both friendly and hostile. Let's see if it's enough to win. The first Void Hunter attack came exactly at dawn, just as predicted. Their ships descended through the morning mist like dark angels of destruction, weapons charging with an ominous purple glow that made the air itself seem to vibrate with malevolent energy. Kira watched from the command center as the newly formed alliance faced its first real test. The Hunters had learned from their conquest of other dragon-human worlds. Their opening move was a simultaneous strike on the largest dragon roosts and human settlements, designed to eliminate both species' command structures before either could mount an organized defense. What they didn't expect was a coordinated response that treated both targets as equal priorities. Dragon flights that would normally defend only their own territories instead formed protective barriers around human cities. Human air defense systems tracked targets for dragon fire, allowing the great beasts to strike with precision impossible to achieve through their natural senses alone. When a squad of Void Hunter fighters dove toward Meridian City, they found themselves caught between automated missile systems and a flight of gold dragons whose flame attacks were guided by human targeting computers. "Target lock confirmed on Hunter Squadron Alpha," came the voice of Wing Commander Sarah Chen through the communication network. "Gold Flight Leader, you have targeting solution on my mark." "Acknowledged, Sky Commander," rumbled the ancient gold dragon Paraxis. "Flame strike incoming." The coordinated attack was devastating. Human missiles disabled the hunters' shield systems, while dragon fire melted through their armor. 3 enemy fighters were destroyed in the first exchange, and the survivors fled back to orbit faster than they had descended. Similar scenes played out across the realm as the Alliance's defensive strategy proved effective. But Kira knew this was only the beginning. The Void Hunters had sent their scouts first, testing the defenses before committing their main force. The real battle was yet to come. "Ma'am," called Dr. Voss from her position at the tactical display, "we're receiving reports from the border settlements. The hunters aren't just attacking randomly, they're looking for something specific." Kira moved to the display, studying the pattern of attacks. The Void Hunters were focusing on research facilities, ancient dragon sites, and places where the dimensional rifts first appeared centuries ago. They're looking for something related to dimensional travel, maybe trying to understand how humans originally got here. The Bronze Dragon, who had remained at the Institute to serve as the primary liaison between human and dragon forces, turned its great head toward them. If they learned to navigate the rift network freely, they could bring through unlimited reinforcements from conquered dimensions. We must prevent this at all costs. "Then we take the fight to them," Kira said, an idea forming in her mind. The testament mentioned hidden weapon caches, ancient dragon technology that was stored away after the peace treaty. If we can access those, we might have something the hunters haven't seen before. Within an hour, mixed teams of humans and dragons were racing toward coordinates provided by the testament. The weapon caches were hidden in remote mountain peaks, caves that had been sealed for 3 centuries and forgotten by all but the eldest dragons. What they found there surprised even the dragons themselves. The ancient weapons were not the crude cannons and basic energy weapons that both species had used during their war. These were devices that bridged the gap between dragon magic and human technology, created during brief periods of cooperation before the treaty separated the species. Crystal core weapons that amplified dragon fire into focused energy beams. Armor that combined dragon-scale protection with human targeting systems. Most importantly, dimensional anchors. Devices that could stabilize or collapse dimensional rifts. "By the ancient winds," whispered Paraxis, as he examined a suit of armor designed for dragon riders. "I remember when these were made. A few visionary humans and dragons worked together in secret, believing that our peoples would one day need combined weapons to face a common threat." "Looks like they were right," said Captain Torres, one of the human technicians studying the crystal core weapons. "These power levels are incredible. With dragon fire feeding them, these weapons could penetrate any known armor." The arrival of the hunters' main fleet interrupted their examination. 50 massive warships emerged from dimensional rifts around the planet, each one easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel. Their hulls were covered in weapons that pulsed with the same purple energy as the dimensional rifts, and sensor readings showed power levels that dwarfed anything in the Allied arsenal. "This is Supreme Hunter Vex Athara of the Void Fleet," came a transmission on all frequencies. The voice was artificial and cold, stripped of any emotion that might indicate mercy or hesitation. "Dimensional coordinates, 847 Zeta 9. You are designated for cleansing. We have successfully eliminated 17 dragon-human worlds in this dimensional cluster. Resistance is futile and will only prolong your suffering." The communication was clearly meant to demoralize, to make the defenders feel hopeless before the real battle began. But instead of despair, Kira felt a surge of determination that seemed to radiate from every human and dragon in the Alliance. "This is Kira Thorne, speaking for the united peoples of this realm," she replied, her voice broadcasting on all channels. "We've received your message. Here's our response." The counterattack was unlike anything the Void Hunters had encountered in their previous conquests. Instead of separate human and dragon forces fighting independent battles, they faced a truly integrated military force. Dragon riders mounted on the great beasts carried crystal core weapons that could pierce hunter armor. Human fighter squadrons provided precise targeting data for dragonfire attacks that could destroy ships far larger than themselves. The real surprise came when the Allied forces deployed the dimensional anchors. The hunters relied on their ability to retreat through rifts when battles turned against them, but the ancient dragon-human technology could lock dimensional space, preventing rift formation within its area of effect. Suddenly, the hunter ships found themselves trapped in normal space, forced to fight conventional battles where the Alliance's combined tactics gave them a significant advantage. "Impossible," came Vexithera's voice over the communication channels. "Dimensional anchors were destroyed on all previous worlds we conquered. How do you still possess this technology?" "Because you never fought a world where humans and dragons worked together to hide it," Kira replied. She was riding Pyraxis now, wearing one of the ancient suits of armor and carrying a crystal core weapon that felt like it had been designed specifically for her. "You've been conquering divided worlds. This one stands united." The battle raged for hours across multiple fronts. In space, human warships provided targeting and coordination for dragon flights that could survive in vacuum for limited periods. On the surface, combined ground forces held strategic positions, while mobile dragon rider units struck at hunter landing forces with devastating effect. The turning point came when a team led by Dr. Voss managed to analyze captured hunter technology and discovered their weakness. The Void Hunter's weapons were indeed designed to kill dragons and humans, but they were calibrated for the specific characteristics of conquered species. They had never faced dragons enhanced by human technology or humans protected by dragon magic. "Their energy signatures are all wrong," Dr. Voss reported from her mobile laboratory. "The weapons expect to encounter baseline human technology and unaugmented dragon physiology. Our combined systems are outside their parameters." Using this information, the Alliance developed new tactics that maximized their advantages. Dragons wearing human-designed energy shields could survive direct hits from hunter weapons. Humans using dragon-enhanced equipment could operate in environments that would normally be lethal. Together, they could go places and do things that neither species could accomplish alone. The climactic battle occurred when the Alliance launched a coordinated assault on the hunter flagship. A small team of dragon riders, including Kira and Pyraxis, used dimensional anchors to prevent the massive ship from escaping, while larger Alliance forces kept the escort ships occupied. Inside the flagship, they discovered the true horror of the Void Hunters' campaign. The ship contained preserved specimens from every world they had conquered, dragons and humans and other species, all cataloged and studied to develop more effective weapons for future conquests. This was not just war, but systematic extermination designed to perfect the art of genocide. 17 worlds, Kira whispered, looking at the display cases that held the remains of entire civilizations. How many billions of people? "Their extinction ends here," Pyraxis rumbled, his voice carrying a note of ancient rage. "Never again will any world stand alone against this evil." The destruction of the flagship's dimensional drive created a cascade effect that closed all the rifts the hunters had opened. Cut off from reinforcements and facing an enemy that grew stronger through cooperation rather than weaker through conflict, the remaining hunter forces were systematically defeated. Supreme Hunter, Vexithara's final transmission came as her ship's systems failed around her. "This outcome was not predicted. You have introduced variables that do not exist in our conquest models." "That's because your models were based on fear and hatred," Kira replied. "You never learned how to account for hope." In the aftermath of the victory, the changes to society were profound and permanent. The old barriers between human settlements and dragon territories were dismantled. Joint cities were established where both species could live and work together. The ancient weapons and technologies were studied and improved, creating a new generation of tools designed for cooperation rather than conquest. Kira found herself appointed as the first ambassador of unity, a position that didn't exist until it became clear that someone needed to speak for both species when they acted as one. She continued to carry messages, but now they were communications that shaped the future of two civilizations learning to become one. The bronze dragon, who had first recognized her, became her constant companion and advisor. "The Testament spoke of you as a bridge between worlds," he said one evening as they watched human children playing alongside young dragons in the courtyard of New Meridian, the first truly integrated city. "But I think you became something more than that. You showed us that we were never meant to be separate peoples. We were always one people who simply hadn't learned to see each other clearly." Kira smiled. Watching a human girl teach a young copper dragon how to play a traditional children's game. I think Valdris knew that when he made his prophecy. He didn't see someone who would force humans and dragons together. He saw someone who would help them remember that they belonged together all along. The dimensional rifts were eventually turned into gateways for exploration rather than conquest. Human technology and dragon wisdom combined to reach new worlds, but this time as visitors and friends rather than refugees or conquerors. They carried with them the lesson learned in their darkest hour, that strength came not from standing alone, but from standing together. Years later, when new threats emerged from distant galaxies or alternate realities, they were met by a civilization that had learned the most important truth in the universe. No one species, no matter how advanced or powerful, could face the infinite dangers of existence alone. But when different peoples chose to trust each other, to share their strengths and cover each other's weaknesses, they could overcome any challenge. Kira often thought about her last day as a simple courier, carrying a package up a mountain path with no idea that her life was about to change forever. The woman who had walked that path had been nobody special, just someone doing her job with quiet competence. The woman who emerged from the battle against the Void Hunters carried the hopes of two civilizations and the responsibility of guiding them toward a shared future. But in truth, she had always been the same person. The courage that made dragons bow, the integrity that earned their respect, the wisdom that forged an alliance. These had been within her from the beginning. She had simply needed the right moment and the right challenge to reveal what was already there. Sometimes the most ordinary people carried within themselves the power to change everything. They just needed someone, or something, to believe in them enough to help them believe in themselves. For Kira, that belief had come from ancient dragons and a testament written centuries before her birth. For countless others across the realm, it came from seeing what one simple courier had accomplished when she chose to trust in something greater than fear. The realm had learned that unity was not just a nice idea, but a practical necessity for survival. And they had learned it through the example of a young woman who proved that the greatest bridges between worlds were not built of metal or stone, but of courage, compassion, and the simple determination to see others as equals deserving of respect. The age of separation was over. The age of unity had begun. And it all started with a courier who was nobody special, until the day when everyone realized that she was exactly as special as she needed to be.